Twisters is the perfect summer blockbuster. From a charming lead to exhilarating action sequences, Twisters is a massive film that comes in the perfect package. It's directed by Minari director Lee Isaac Chung, it stars the next big movie star Glenn Powell, and takes disaster films back to their roots with huge action spectacles, characters that you can't help but root for, all while giving you the old school feeling of a movie made on film.
You don't face your fears, you ride them.
Before we get into it, let me know your thoughts on Twisters in the comments down below, and over 98% of you guys who watch this video so aren't yet subscribed. So if you don't want to miss out on a new review, hit that button. But don't waste any more time, let's get into it. Twisters is technically not a reboot and not a sequel, but it does follow a group of tornado wranglers led by Tyler Owens as they fight for their lives as multiple tornadoes converge.
We got twins!
It stars Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, Anthony Ramos, and is directed by Lee Isaac Chung. And the cast is what I want to start with because it literally does not get better than this. David Cornsweet is so good in this movie. He's a small role, but he's super entertaining. Also, apparently he found out that he was going to be Superman on the set of this movie, which is so cool. Anthony Ramos is so underrated. He's been third wheeling the entire press conference, but his performance was worth it. I thought he had a great role and is a great catalyst character for the story. But to get to Glenn Powell, he is the definition of a movie star, and I think this movie is what solidifies him as the summer blockbuster actor. We don't know the box office draw of just his name yet because yes, Twisters is a franchise. His other movie, Hitman, which came out this summer, was only on Netflix, but Anyone But You did make a good amount of money. Obviously Top Gun Maverick did as well, but he wasn't the lead in that. But I'm super excited to see how this movie performs because Glenn Powell is so charming, and you've heard that a million times over, obviously. And this movie isn't necessarily as emotionally taxing on him as it is on another actress, which I'll talk about in just a second here, but his character falls really well into the story as well. I think he was the perfect choice for this character. But his blockbuster greatness aside, I want to take a second to talk about Daisy Edgar Jones, who, if I'm not mistaken, this is her first big screen debut, and she was absolutely amazing. She was more so the main character than I ever thought, at least through what I knew about the movie going in and the marketing itself. But she has such a great emotional core in this film, one that I just really was not expecting. And the opening of the movie is absolutely brilliant, but the way that her character evolves throughout this film is just absolutely amazing, and it's all capped off in the final moments perfectly. And this movie is the definition of an action blockbuster, but I'm going to get into the action and then the story itself in just a second here because I think this movie works the best in terms of being a great package for a blockbuster because it's so visually interesting. Now, a big part of this movie was being shot on Kodak film. And actually, when I showed my mom the trailer for Twisters after we watched Twister for the first time just about 2 days ago, she literally said to me, "This looks like an older film." And I think that's something really interesting to take it apart because I don't think that's necessarily a negative comment. And as I was watching the movie, there's some sequences where it's obviously a lot more obvious and just on screen that, okay, yes, this looks like film, and others it doesn't. But after watching the movie, a big reason why the visuals work, and I think why the choice of making this movie on film works so well, is because it adds a level of tangibility to this movie and it makes everything feel way more present than it actually is. The original Twister movie was such a groundbreaking film for ILM, Steven Spielberg, and everyone that worked on the movie. And I'm not saying Twisters is a generational film by any means, but I think they took the core of what made that movie so special in making it feel tangible and putting all of their efforts towards that, and they did the same thing in Twisters. Well, yes, making it a big action summer blockbuster movie like we've had a lot of the last couple of years, but they take a different approach in the filmmaking element of it to make it more interesting, at least to me personally. I think the composition as well is great. The frame always feels super filled, and that's what you really need in a disaster movie. There's also some really interesting like visual storytelling moments. I won't go too deep into detail with those, but there's like one or two throughout this film that I just thought were like, that's Lee Isaac Chung. I'm going to talk about him more in just a second here, but I do think this is the perfect like disaster action, at least the best that we've gotten in many, many, many years. Aside from being the movie of the summer so far, I think the disaster action is what really sells this film because firstly, if it doesn't look good, no one's going to believe it, but also if there aren't stakes and if you don't feel truly immersed into the disaster of the action, you're not going to like the movie. And I think firstly, there are amazing stakes in this movie. There's this core that started in the very beginning of the film and it evolves really, really well with Daisy Edgar Jones's character. The carnage is absolutely insane.
In the moment, I got it wrong.
They're not afraid to go head over heels with the brutality of this action. There's one scene specifically that I do have to talk about. It's not technically spoilers because it is in the trailer, but it's the scene where the car gets thrown into like the motel sign. And in the movie, I'm not sure if this is in the trailer or not, there's like blood that comes out of the windows first, and then the rest of the car goes. And you see the intricacies of like the people getting into the car, and you get to meet those people. And then this brutal thing just happens to them. And it was completely unexpected to me, because going in, everyone's like, this is a great big action blockbuster, you know, whatever, like it's cool. But you don't expect there to be real heart in that statement. And this is where we get to the core emotional story, because this is how they create that peak intensity. On the low, this movie might be scarier than Longlegs. I know that's crazy to say, but the level of intensity here is so high because there is a core emotional story tied to Daisy Edgar Jones's character. And not only is it something that's like, oh, she's like overreacting and Glenn Powell is helping her overcome the overreaction. No, like, this is something truly that is traumatic, and you as the audience get to feel that because you were put into that traumatic situation. There is such an amazing focus on character work, and that's just in general where I think the writing comes in, because I was actually surprised when I found this out, but Joseph Kosinski actually wrote this movie. He wrote Oblivion, Top Gun Maverick, along with F1 that comes out next year, which I'm super excited for. And it's not to say that this writing is perfect. You know, there are some general like suspension of disbelief problems. For God's sakes, there's fire tornadoes in this movie. But the core to this massive disaster action story is there. And you kind of see that in Top Gun Maverick with the amount of character work being done, tying in like a love interest that's more so slow burning, and then a slight ensemble of characters where everyone has something interesting and entertaining going on. Tyler Owens' kind of group of tornado wranglers, and then Daisy Edgar Jones's character and that side of things. The way that it all converges together works so well. And again, this isn't some Oscar-winning writing, but it brings together the story enough for me to not have a problem with it, and then on top of that, enjoy the amazing disaster action. And the final thing to talk about is the direction. I mentioned this at the top of this video, but Lee Isaac Chung, who did Minari, knows how to write characters. And I'm going to get into the visuals in just a second here, but he knows how to direct these characters in order to subtly make you like them a lot and make their relationships feel very justified over the runtime of the film. There's obviously chaos, there's obviously destruction, but a lot of the movie's also based in this kind of dark and also kind of light comedy. And I feel like, firstly, obviously, Minari balanced that really well, but Twisters does as well. At the end of the day, I absolutely love Twisters. It's not perfect by any means, but it is so exhilarating. It's so fun, but it's also so emotionally resonant. All of the characters feel thorough and thought out. Overall, I'm going to give Twisters an 8.5 out of 10. And honestly, I see myself pushing it up to a 9 very soon. That's it for my thoughts on Twisters. Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.